Check, test, test, check, test. Yep. Good to see you. Good to see you. Please help me welcome the creative forces behind Cosmopolis and some of the actors. I'll introduce everyone individually. As employee number 3 at Microsoft's MSN Canada, producer Martin Katz created Splice, the first episodic web documentary. Since then, he has produced or co-produced Spectacle, Elvis Costello with Shake Hands with the Devil, Hotel Rwanda, and dozens of other. Cosmopolis is Mr. Katz's third film with David Cronenberg. Sitting next to him is Emily Hampshire. She is a 3-time Genie nominee, a Gemini Award winner for Best Ensemble Performance in a Comedy Program or Series from Made in Canada, and has appeared in many films, including Boy Meets Girl, Snowcake, The Trotsky, and Good Neighbors. She plays Jane Melman in Cosmopolis. Next to Emily is David Cronenberg, the director of 20 feature films. He has been called one of the world's best directors by The Guardian. He received the Special Jury Prize at the 1996 Cannes Film Festival for Crash, the Silver Bear Award at the 49th Berlin International Film Festival for his film Existence. In 2006, he was awarded the Cannes Film Festival's Lifetime Achievement Award, and in 2009, Mr. Cronenberg received the Legion of Honor from the government of France. Sitting next to him is Robert Pattinson. He was named one of the world's most 100 influential people in the world by Time magazine. He plays Edward Cullen in the film adaptations of the Twilight novels by Stephenie Meyer. He executive produced and starred in the film Remember Me, and in 2011 he starred as Jacob in Water for Elephants. He plays Eric Packer in Cosmopolis. Next to Robert is Academy Award nominee Paul Giamatti. He's the star of critically acclaimed movies like Sideways, American Splendor, Cinderella Man, The Last Station, Barney's Version, Win-Win, The Ides of March, and will soon be seen in Rock of Ages and Lucky Dog, where he plays a French-Canadian Christmas tree salesman. He plays Benno Levin in Cosmopolis.
He won't do his accent for you.
No.
Yeah.
He won't. I'm gonna ask him.
Gotta pay the money.
Next to Paul, a former junior associate at the National Ballet School of Canada, Toronto-born Sarah Gadden is not only a Dean's List scholar in the Faculty of Arts and Science at the University of Toronto, but also the star of Being Erica, Happy Town, and Murdoch Mysteries on television, and The Moth Diaries and Dream House on the big screen. This is her third film with Cronenberg. She stars in the upcoming Antiviral from director Brandon Cronenberg, and was seen in David Cronenberg's A Dangerous Method. She plays Elise Schifrin in Cosmopolis. And next to her is, let's see, all the way down there, we have seen Kevin Durand as Joshua in Dark Angel, Martin Keamy in Lost, Fred J. Dukes in X-Men Origins Wolverine, the Archangel Gabriel in Legion, and Little John in Robin Hood. Durand recently received a Best Supporting Actor Genie nomination for his portrayal of Lenny Jackson in Edwin Boyd, Citizen Gangster. He plays Torval in Cosmopolis. Please help me welcome everyone. I'm going to start the questions, I guess, next to me. We'll start with Martin. What is it, this is the third film you've made with Mr. Cronenberg. What is it about his work and your relationship that brings you together time after time?
Well, you know, you think about a lot of things when you get started on a project, and the most important thing is, you know, do I want to live with this person for 2 or 3 years that it takes to get a film together and made? And there are few people on the planet that are more wonderful to spend time with than David, and so that's really, you know, my response. There's just he turns the business of filmmaking into a joy, and we talk about, you know, we never talk about working together. We talk about playing together, which is a really wonderful way to spend your time.
This couldn't have been an easy movie to get financed. Can you tell me a little bit about your approach to that end of this process?
Surprisingly, it's a very difficult time to get movies financed, but to go out into the world and say we're making a contemporary thriller set in the financial world and it's directed by David was really a pitch that caught everyone's attention. I'm not sure they all expected to see the movie you're going to see tonight, which is fantastically accomplished and beautiful film, which is about the collapse of the financial world. But it was a lot simpler to find the money than a lot of films. And so basically, we put the money together. A third of the money came from the world, a third of it came from Canada, and about a third of it came from France and Italy and Portugal.
Well, thank you. Emily Hampshire, in some of the interviews that you did at the Cannes Film Festival, you compared shooting your segment of this to almost like making a short film. Is that kind of how you approached it?
Yeah, I think so. Like, I think it was kind of good that we all had these little, I said, mini movies,
Yeah.
I think, and it was nice to be contained in that way. And I think having all our stuff shot together too, like you don't usually shoot in order, but at least in this instance, you got to shoot your whole storyline in order. So.
And how did you prepare for the role? And for the scene, and the only, because from what I understand, the one piece of direction that Mr. Cronenberg gave you was the position that Robert would be in.
That was
throughout most
direction
of your
to
scene.
Rob. Yeah. I don't know which I was more excited about, having David bend over me and show Rob how to give a prostate exam, or Rob bending over me and getting one.
You don't have to choose, really.
But actually, how I prepared first was my friend Jay Baruchel had shot a few days before me, and so I called him and said, "What is David like? What's it going to be like on set?" And he said that you don't direct. And he said not to be offended if you didn't say anything after my scene. So I was very glad to have that kind of preparation, because I think I might have cried if I did this scene and you just said nothing. We were in this limo, so that we had like a mic wired in that David would direct from, and it sounded like the voice of God coming in. And so to just hear like, again, was terrifying.
I hope the snoring didn't bother you.
But in terms of preparation for the part, I really, I read the book, which I heard later that you told people not to do, but I read the book, and I just went with what I normally do, I guess, just read the whole script too.
Well, congratulations on that. David, congratulations for reading the whole script. I know.
That was a hard script.
In keeping with that, David, you wrote the script in 6 days. Can you tell me what it was about Don DeLillo's book that drew you in, first of all, and then what changes you made in the 6 days that you took to write the script?
Well,
And why?
I don't know. Have you all seen the film, or you haven't seen the film? You have? You haven't? Yes? No? Anybody hasn't seen the film? Okay. So, because I wouldn't want to talk about leaving things in and out if you hadn't seen it. Yeah. Well, it was the dialogue, was the backbone of it, and I really thought, okay, this is like typical Don DeLillo dialogue, but because of which is realistic in this, because Americans do speak that way, but it's also very stylized, and I do think of it as being kind of Pinteresque, and in that it has a real stylized rhythm and tone that you can recognize from a mile away, and that the punctuation really matters, And so I literally I had the book here, and I have my computer here, and I transcribed all of the dialogue and put it into screenplay form, and looked at it and said, okay, is this a movie or not? And then I said, yeah, I think it actually is. And then the next 3 days, I just put in all the action stuff, and that was it. And it was easy to, when I met Don DeLillo finally in Estoril, and he had read the script by that time, and I hadn't had any direct contact with him at that point, and he said, I was really interested to see how you were going to handle the Benno's journal thing, because Benno writes in the book a journal, a very detailed journal, and you see it very soon in the novel, and he, for one thing, says that Eric Packer's body is lying at my feet, kind of thing. And he said, I was interested to see that you handled it by leaving it out. And I said, well, sure, because I can't do that in cinema, and my experience at now, having adapted quite a few things, is to just, the rule of thumb is accept that there are certain things that you can't do in movies that you can easily do in novels, and vice versa. And so the things that didn't work, or I couldn't make work, I just left out. And I thought that what was left. And so what I say is, I don't give you Benno's journal, but I do give you Paul. I give you Paul's face and his voice and his eyes and his movement, and I figure that's my credit default swap. You know, I give you that, and instead, you know, that's the cinematic way of giving you Benno without the journal. Other little changes in the book. The Didi character played by Juliette Binoche. All of that happens in her apartment in the book, her posh New York apartment, and I thought, no, that's going to be boring. I'd really like them to do that in the limo, especially since I was, you know, feeling that we were going to see the whole movie from Eric's point of view, pretty much. So when he was in the limo, we'd be in the limo. I just felt it would be more interesting there. And finally, oh yeah, and there was an orgy scene, sort of a film. The idea was that there is a reconciliation between Eric and Elise on the streets of New York while a movie orgy scene is being filmed. This is in the novel, of course. And there were 150 naked people lying around in the streets of New York with no police or anything. And he and Elise just sort of take their clothes off and lie down together, and they have this kind of rapprochement on the streets of New York City. So I thought, okay, so that's not going to work. I really thought that it was, in the book, even just reading the book, I felt this is a fantasy of Eric's, a fantasy of reconciliation, and his relationship with his wife really is over, and he's just, you know, this is in his head. And as a result, it just wouldn't work on screen, and so I left it out also.
And you were very particular with the actors about